So, hey there, thank you very much for checking out my videos. I do greatly appreciate it. This is just like a week in review, or kind of I've got a little bit of time, so let's go ahead and do a quick little chat or a live session on YouTube. Essentially, it's just a really easy way for me to record something without doing any editing, no scripting, nothing. We just do go ahead and we have a conversation. Oop, make a lot of weird noises. So, what have we been up to? Well, this week we went to an insurance broker locally. We sat down and we had a conversation about Turo and my intent as far as what I want to do with it. I did that because my current broker is difficult to deal with, and that's been a new occurrence. And they've switched ownership, and now they've gone to more of a call center setup. So they don't really give you any real personal service or direction as far as that's concerned, and they're a little bit argumentative on top of it. So I thought, well, I've only been there for 20 years. Maybe it's time I got to look around, have a little peek, and see what else is out there. So I went out to a local broker and sat down, had a conversation, and she took some basic information, and she came back and called me and said, okay, we need to sit down and have a conversation again. So, and she's not familiar with Turo at all, but they do deal with economical. I deal with economical. Turo deals with economical. So I figured this should be a pretty straightforward and easy process. So basically, we found out that on Turo, there is no limit as far as the vehicles you can put on there. They don't particularly care. So you could put one, you could put 100. Not an issue to them from that standpoint. However, economical, the insurance company that they deal with and I deal with, has a cutoff. So they only allow 4. So it's 4 vehicles, right? So it's one of those things when I'm looking at a power host or somebody down in Toronto, and they've got maybe 10 or 15 cars, and you kind of go, well, how are they working that? To be able to do that. Now, my intent is not to do, well, who knows? But the intent is not to do 10 or 15 cars unless it's snowballed into something else, right? My intent was basically to do one vehicle, the Outlander, and give it 6 months and give it a try and just see how that worked. And I stumbled across another vehicle that was undervalued, and I thought, okay, well, it needs some work. I got some time to do it, and it'd be nice to be able to do a car from scratch and go, okay, well, let's put this out on Turo from the beginning, right? Let's look for the car, let's do the work, let's get the service stuff done, let's do the prep and go from there, right? So I thought, well, this will be pretty easy. I just mirror what I did with my Outlander. I just called the insurance company up, and well, I sent them off an email, and of course, they didn't get back to me for a couple of days. So I had to call and say, this is where I'm at. I need to get the pink slip, and essentially the price point I'm going to assume is going to be under or around the price of the Outlander. And folks in the call center tell me, well, no, that the quote that they've given you as far as through the email, the broker that I've been dealing with, is incorrect. That they won't honor that one. And they're questioning about whether they want to honor my personal policy on my other car as well as the Outlander. And then when it comes to renewal time, I'm probably looking at a 30% jump, if not more, but they won't really give me a number. So it's one of those things where I went, if you're not going to give me a number, you can't give me an estimate, I've got to shop. Like that's you're basically telling me to leave. Like you're showing me the door essentially. So called the local broker up. Actually, I called a couple, but I went to one because they're literally just down the street. And I thought, okay, I'll pop in, I'll have a conversation. It's not due till January anyways, as far as my renewal is concerned. So it's not a huge issue. It's not like a today moment, but it's coming up, right? January is going to be here any minute now. So talking to her, she didn't know what Turo was, and she said, okay, well, at least we'll step back, we'll take a look at it, we'll go from there, right? So, which is great. You find somebody who will actually want to, go through the steps and see if we can work something out, which is a gold star in my book, because so far it's really tough finding anybody that wants to do a basic quote or have a conversation in regards to it. It's a tough one, which I just find really weird, especially since I went to the portal for economical to find out, who locally represents them as far as a broker is concerned. So that's a struggling point. So she called me back about a week, maybe later, or a couple of days, somewhere in that range. It wasn't a focal point time-wise for me. And she basically said, well, okay, well, I need to see the policies again. So I took her down a copy of the policy. And she'd already done a little bit of work. And of course, she tells me that economical caps it at 4. So they'll only allow 4 personal vehicles onto onto Turo. And Turo, which is economical, doesn't have a cap. So in other words, they do have a cap, but they don't have a cap if you're not dealing with economical. So if I switch up my policy to Wananisa or another company, Turo doesn't care. Like it is what it is, right? So that's odd. So at this point, I don't have to worry about whether I'm going to break 4 cars because my goal is not really volume. I'm not trying to get it up as far as 10 or 20 cars. But if I had another car come up and it was a great deal, I would buy it and put it on Turo and I would drive it and enjoy it myself. Like it'd be one of those things, right? But she pointed out that there might be an option to go into a commercial policy, which is kind of a hybrid between, I guess, a personal policy and commercial, kind of a mixed use type deal. I'm going to assume that just like I've had commercial policy in the past, I'm going to assume the deductible is going to be $5,000 or $10,000, which doesn't really matter to me. Like from that standpoint, these are cash cars, so I wouldn't do an insurance claim if I were in an accident. I just want to make sure that, if I was responsible, that the car that would be covered, like the accident would be covered. That's all I'm worried about. The car itself that I'm driving, not a huge concern, right? It's just price point stuff. Like I'm not prepared to spend $1,200 a year to cover a car that's worth $5,000. It doesn't make any sense from that end of it. And it's just one of those things in my head. Now, if I had a newer car, like a 2018 and up, and it was worth, $15,000 or $25,000, I'd probably say, yeah, definitely, let's put full coverage on it. If it was financed, there'd be no quims about it. You definitely have to put it on, right? So, but when I'm dealing with a $5,000 car, it's a judgment call. It is what it is, right? So she said, well, there might be an option there. So coming up in the next little while, maybe we'll sit down, we'll go through what a commercial policy is. And that'll be an interesting and fun event for everybody, right? So we'll go from there. And maybe it's not as bad as I anticipate as far as that's concerned. And if I have to go to a commercial policy, then it's kind of one of those things where I have to kind of openly say to myself, good news, Keith, you're in the Turo realm of cars. You need to pick up some cars, which is what it is. So the 6-month little trial might snowball into, oh, well, if I have to pay commercial insurance and commercial insurance covers 5 cars, there's no point in me not having 5 cars. It's just the way it is. So we'll see how that plays out. Now, if I can keep with my personal insurance and stay at that 4 mark, and I'm still with economical and the price isn't insane, I might just keep that and just say, okay, let's roll with that. Maybe we'll pick up another car down the road and deal with it kind of as it shows up, or get rid of one of these and, go forward from there. So that was that fun, entertaining moment for the week, just going through insurance. But again, not a dead end. So at this point, I would probably say the biggest hurdle for me has been insurance. And I think it would be the same thing for anybody else out there. So check with your broker. God forbid you're not with a call center or something that doesn't give you full service. If you're dealing with an actual physical person that actually likes to do the job, well, then maybe you'll luck out. But things like a bank or a financial institution or some of the main insurance brokers that kind of market volume stuff and discount prices, probably not going to help you out very much. So just be aware of that. Find a nice traditional little nook, kind of deals with locals type deal. I'm kind of leaning towards that anyways, because I figure if I'm having this hurdle just purchasing insurance, I can just visualize or think about what the hurdle will be if I had to make a claim or if there was a process. And I've started to do that already. So my last rental for the weekend came back, and it came back with a little bit of damage. Now, again, not a big deal. Side skirt looks like either someone stepped on it to get into the vehicle when they were young and beefy, like a big kid, or maybe someone was strapping somebody into a baby seat and put their knee on it and crushed it. Bigger gentleman, maybe, right? And honest mistake, not a big deal. It might even be that maybe they bumped a raccoon or they hit a curb or something, right? There's no real marks on it. It's just that it's been pushed and banged down, so it was hanging off the vehicle. It's one of those things where I found it just annoying that the person didn't send a little email and say, hey, I noticed that we inadvertently knocked the side skirt off. which I don't know, maybe they're running through their head. They're going, oh, this guy's going to be a pain in the butt. He's going to want a bazillion dollars have to go through the insurance. Maybe I get that, right? So you kind of just scurry out and you kind of hope everything will be okay, right? But I've got to document it now, and I've got to put it through Turo, which at this point, I just want to talk to the guy and say, hey, you know what? Did you hit something? Like, do I have to worry about, someone backed into it in the parking lot? Did you bump something? Do I have a property owner now going to give me a call and 2 months down the road and say, hey, your car was in and out of here and I nicked that? That's all I wanted to clear up. Like that's it. So I sent him off an email and said, look, this isn't a big deal. Could you please get back to me? And of course he ghosted me. And it's one of those things where you kind of go, frustrating from that standpoint, because you kind of go, okay, well then maybe this is the typical thing that happens, 1 in 5 maybe, who knows, right? So I also dropped it off with 7/8 of a tank. So in other words, it wasn't full, which on a 2-day rental or a 1-day rental, I'm going to bill fuel. I listened to Audrey on her channel there, YouTube. It's something to go over, and she bills for fuel all the time. $8 doesn't matter, right? If you booked it for 2 weeks and you drop it off, and there's like a little margin of fuel in it, I'm probably going to chase you down. But if you hit that full tank and you drove here, I'm not going to chase you around for that, right? But on a day rental, I have to, because there's just not enough markup there for me, right? It's just the nature of it. So I sent him off the bill for $23 and change worth of fuel. It is what it is, right? Bump it up. I can't put any more in it. So take a photo of the actual invoice and send that off to Turo and say, look, that's an overfill, and there's a $10 surcharge for it, right? So we're not talking rolling money stuff, right? And it's out of pocket anyway, so it's not like I'm profiting from it. I'm not making tons of money there. Again, a couple of days, and he waits right till the last minute to ping me back and go, yeah, I paid it. And I'm going, well, I sent you the photos of the damage. You could at least have a little discussion and say, look, I'm sorry. I was getting in and out with the baby seat. I put my leg down. Things happen. It's kind of like, it's a couple clips. I can fix it myself. It's not a big deal from that standpoint. Maybe a half an hour worth of work. And he did leave it kind of a little dirty, but I'm of the opinion that if you book your car out and it's a family-run vehicle, essentially, it's going to come back with some dirt. And I see other videos out there where they're complaining about cookie crumbs and little bits and pieces and little things. And you kind of go, oh, it's a rental car. They're going to bring it back. Like, it's going to have some dirt. Like that, you have to kind of just acknowledge. It's why I've put down big rubber mats, and I bought a car with leather interior, so it wipes off nice and tight, right? So it doesn't take too long to clean. So I factor in about an hour, run it down, put some gas in it, run it through the, not the auto wash, but the quick wand wash, and give it a quick vacuum. It cost me $8. And it is what it is. It's part of the thrill of having a Turo car. Give you the experience of running a rental agency. You'd be doing the exact same thing at a Tilden or Hertz. It's just the way it is, right? So that didn't bug me. It irked me a little bit, but didn't bug me. It's kind of like I'd expected that. So, but just not getting back to somebody. So if you borrow the car, you loan the car, and it's kind of like, you could just send an email. And I'm pretty reasonable about stuff. Like even in my description of the vehicle, I don't put down, it's a runabout. It's a daily. Like it's 10 years old. It's got nicks and scratches and scuffs. I even put them on the photographs. Like I'm very clear about it. And I'm very liberal. It's one of those things where it's like, if you dented a panel, or you backed into a post, or you folded something, or you crimped something, I'm probably going to have an issue with it, right? But if you go to a water park and get a door ding, it happens, right? I get 3 of them. I'll run them down to a PVR guy, and he charges me, I think, about $95 to do 3. And sometimes if I got 4 or 5 of them and they're easy, it just dings them out, right? It's not a huge expense to me, right? And I put 10% aside with every Turo rental as kind of just a little slush fund to say, okay, well, that's for little incidental things like taking the car down for a ding, or reattaching the something to buy like a bag of clips. Like it's not a huge dollar value, so it's just one of those things where I put it aside for that reason, just like any other business would. If you were running a car dealership, you'd have a lot pack, and you'd attach $200 to each car in the event that you got scraped or dinged by a salesperson, which happens, right? So you go, okay, well, you sold 1,000 cars, but you've got more than enough of a slush fund there not to even think about it. It just makes it. It's no big deal, right? So you can just let it roll off your back like water on a duck. It's not a concern, right? So if I have something that's under $50, I'm not going to go through the process with Turo and say, okay, well, here's my 3 body shop estimates, and the vehicle's going to be down for 2 weeks because of side skirt. That costs me more money than the hurdle itself, right? Now, if I were in the GTA and I could call a mobile guy and say, hey, come up, give me an estimate on this, and do 3 of them while you're there, and get her done because it's so easy. Up here, it's a little bit more of a run, so it's not an easy task. I have to go to Goderich. There's one downtown. There's one to go to Kitchener. So I'm looking like easily a couple hours on my schedule. So like a quick, easy, simple fix, I'll just do the quick, simple fix. It's not an issue. But it just seemed to be like just annoying. That's all it was. It's just one of those things where you look at it, you can clearly see it. It's hanging there. Oh, I didn't see it. I didn't notice it. It's like, dude, you walk past. Like, fine. Like, I expect some damage, but it's one of those things where it's just, I don't know. If you're a Turo host out there, tell me some of your stories. Maybe you used to do Turo or peer-to-peer car rentals, and you went, oh no, it's not my game anymore. But here's my story that got me out of it. I'd love to talk to somebody about kind of the impacts of that. And I'm more concerned about an accident report from that standpoint. It's just the nature of the beast, right? So we talked about insurance, talked about my rental return, and kind of not really a nightmare, but I could make it more drama and do a video about it and have a little temper tantrum, but that's not what I do, right? I just found that annoying. And then we had to do the reviews, right? So I'm, he's first time renter, so I'm going to cut him a little bit of slack. So I gave him a 5-star, but I wrote in my review, hey, clearly used as a family vehicle, which is exactly what it's intended for. So I expect you to bring it back with candy and gook and stuff in it and mud on the floor. Like that is what it is, right? But skipping on mentioning that you nicked a piece of trim. And I get it. Maybe you go, well, maybe the guy's going to jam you up. It's going to be a nightmare for you. And just maybe he doesn't notice. Maybe the guy that owns the vehicle isn't going to notice that the side skirt's hanging off the side of it. And I can just kind of leave. But it's just one of those things where you kind of go, come on, Again, we're right back to me being an old guy. But so you get to the reviews, and it's like, I don't want to jam him up either, because he'll probably want to rent a vehicle again. And to be honest with you, I would rent to him again anyways. The level of risk is the same, whether it's a guy I know or a guy I don't. And so I had to spend an hour cleaning it up. No big deal, right? That's the nature of it. I had to put gas in it. And you go, okay, well, I got to send him a bill for like $33. And then he's got to do a review. And I'm thinking to myself, if he's nitpicky and he's kind of a bit of a whatever, you're going to go, okay, well, he's going to leave me a 2-star or a no star because of the bill of the gas. And it's going to be frustrating. And because I'm whining about wanting to get my car fixed because you damaged it, I'm going to get a lower rating. And he did kind of in a roundabout way do that. So I ended up getting a 5-star overall, which is fine, but he put a couple of things about service. It's like the vehicle just was safetied. It's got 1,500 kilometers on it since the last safety. Like it's been gone through completely. This is the other thing that kind of irks me a little bit. So he's criticizing the brakes, and it's an SUV. It's a fairly good sized vehicle. It takes a little more rolling distance for it to stop, and it's not as responsive as a car. So maybe you're used to driving a compact, and you decide to rent a 7-passenger because you're taking a bunch of kids out, which makes sense. It's not going to drive like a compact car. It's not going to brake like a compact car. And sometimes you're doing a review, you're writing it as if it's a review, as if you're like car and driver, and you're going, well, it's not like the F-150 I own. Well, no, it's not. It's not going to be like that. It's not going to be like the car you drive, or even a little SUV. The brakes are going to be the way they are. Like that's the nature of it. So I found that annoying because you kind of go, whatever. And then it wrote not as represented as it is in the photos. I'm going, well, the photos are pretty clear. Like there are a couple of nicks and scratches here and there. I've made them very clear in the photographs. No, buyer's remorse, maybe. It's one of those things you look at, you're going to go, okay, you're annoyed you probably got billed for $30 worth of gas. You're probably annoyed at the fact that I sent you an email because you did nick the car. But you think you go, well, okay, the guy let me off without hassle. Right? I didn't want the hassle. Right? So he let me off on that. Yes, I did bring it, but like it was, if I was trying to get you for $6, I'd go, yeah, I'm being a whatever, right? But when it's like $30 worth of fuel, you didn't bring it back with fuel in it. Like, it's part of your job. Like it's just the nature of it. But the reviews as if you're reviewing a car is really annoying, and I think you're going to see that more in Turo because they got some new things going on with the reviews and 5 stars and 3 stars and what your car qualifies for. And to be honest with you, I'm not that concerned about the star rating. I'm not. I'm just concerned about the ability to rent the car out. So if you're trying to make a level playing field, then maybe you need to categorize some of these things. Like maybe you need to say, oh, these are family value cars, or these are. I'm not going to compare my car to a Lamborghini. Like I would expect if I went to go rent a Lamborghini, Heather Valentine, hi there. If you ever start renting Lamborghinis, give me a call. But if you said, hey, we're going to start renting Lamborghinis, I would expect the Lamborghini to be pristine. Like I'm going to take this because I'm probably taking it on a special day. It's probably a wedding or an event. It's probably going to get photographs because it's a fancy supercar, right? Pretty cool times. I'm probably going to go through the Wendy's parking lot because that's what you do with Lamborghini, right? I'm going to assume that. Probably go shopping for a watch. So based on the videos on what I see here in Canada when it comes to Lamborghinis, it's thrift shopping, Wendy's, and buy a watch. Oh, and talk to a guy about a man's suit, which I thought was a good episode, incidentally. So if you're ever watching those things, I'll leave a link down below. Um, they're more of a lifestyle than an actual car review, which I actually like because you watch all these stupid reviews about cars about going really really fast. And you kind of go, not really all that keen on like it's a fast car, like it's a given, right? But it's nice to be able to sit down and go, oh, so that guy owns a cleaning business and he's had it for 35 years and he's buying a Lamborghini because he's bought another one before, and he just rolls the equity into the car. So really, when it comes down to it, is he really spending $60,000 on a Lamborghini? No, he's not. He's really rolling 45 that he had before in the other car. He's really spending 20 for 3 years of enjoyment or 2 years of enjoyment. So it's a depreciation rate that he's just kind of taking care of. And you look and kind of go, oh, so then a Lamborghini or a high-end car is attainable if you've got an upper level income or you're very frugal with your money. You say, no, that sits in the garage and goes on a weekend and I enjoy it and it's a fun car. And it's just values. It's just where do you put your things? And when you think about it, if you're in that $80,000 to $200,000 income bracket, you got to spend your money on something, right? Something. Nothing wrong with a Lamborghini. Really, it's going to buy a big SUV. You're going to have that as well. It's one of those. It's just a lifestyle choice. You've clearly earned it. It seems to be with those particular buyers. It's not what you would think. It's usually like blue collar. Like at least what I've been seeing on our stuff. It's like, oh no, they're worker bees, but they're just upper management or they've created something, which is kind of cool. And I like that a lot. Like when you look at that, you kind of go, oh, well, I'm interested in the car. The car is cool. That's fun to look at, but it is nice to hear the background and story about how they got to that point and why is that a value to them. Like that's like, is it an achievement? Like a little gold star goes on the fridge, you go, Lamborghini achieved. Like, is that how that works? Next thing is a field of dreams. I don't know. So it'd be an interesting little conversation. So that's basically my little offshoot about car reviews in Turo. So it's one of those little confusing things where I think they need to do a little description or at least a little introductory video. Say, look, we'd like you to do a review on the car. That's just great. We appreciate that. We love the feedback. But it's not a car review. It's a rental review. How did you enjoy the rental? Did it break down? Did it catch on fire? Did you find it was responsive and comfortable? Did you find that the transaction was smooth with no headaches, no issues? Like those are really the things that I think people look at when they're looking to rent a car, unless you're going out of that bread and butter or that family type of vehicle. Like if I'm renting a Malibu, I'm not expecting top shelf. I'm expecting a Malibu. Like it's clean and tidy and got me from point A to point B, and it's a Malibu, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like it's a car. like any other car. But again, if you rent something high end and exotic, you kind of go, yeah, there's a little more to that. It's not just a car; it's something else, and it's an experience unto that. So again, that's one of those little things that irked me. And I think Audrey's mentioned it down the States about her reviews on some of her cars where you go, it's a Mazda 2. It's 12 years old because it's old inventory or whatever. And it's not mint, but it's $21 a day. At $21 a day, if it got you with air conditioning and an automatic and got you from A to B and it didn't blow up, you should be going, okay, that sounds pretty fair. Like it was still a comfortable car. Yes, it's going to have nicks and scratches and dings and marks from a lot of people that had it, right? So it's just one of those things where you kind of go, where is Turo marketing towards? And if they're saying, look, we really want to go high end, and maybe that's the end goal. Maybe they're thinking to themselves, you know what? It'd be nice to have a conversation with somebody from Turo, but it's mostly chat bots from what I can tell, where they can say, hey, you know what? This is where we started, 2018, 2016, and yeah, there is a bread and butter component to it, but maybe you need something like when you call and you get yourself a ride, you can say to yourself, "No, I would like to have a fancy black car, right? Or a Lincoln or a town car," and you get charged appropriate for that, right? Because it's a high-end luxury good, and maybe they need to be able to distinguish it and go, "Okay, well, there's Turo Gold or the Diamond Edition or package, or there's Turo Budget, not Rent-A-Wrecks, but budget-oriented cars, which are designed to get you from put your car in the garage. You need a car for 3 days because you get your engine done. Insurance claim, you've got 14 days worth of coverage, but it's really a value amount. You know the car's going to be out longer than 14 days, so you've got X amount of money to spend to stretch that. Like really, those are the clients that wouldn't be in that gold or diamond edition area, right? Sorry. Like maybe that's where you need that distinction. And be able to say, hey, this is where you're at with it from that standpoint. I wouldn't compete directly with if you came in and said, hey, look, I've got a beautiful, full-sized Escalade. It's a 7-passenger. Like if you weren't educated about cars, maybe you go, yeah, that's Outlander should be able to compete with an Escalade. And you kind of go, no, they're different vehicles. This one has standard suspension. That one would have an air ride with the cool little magnets in it to keep it from going all over the place, right? So it's a fancy car, right? It's completely different. That's a $110,000, $120,000 vehicle new in Canada. Mine would be, I think, top end 42. Like that's just where it is, right? It's less than half the price of the vehicle. So it's one of those things where, again, it's just perception. And I think that's where the distinction has to be made, where you say, okay, this is your gold level or your diamond level. This is your exotic car. This is your airport vehicle. This is the runabout. This is the nice top end sedan. These go into these categories. The lower end, which is not, it's not like knocking the market. It's just if you're looking for that under $100 mark, or you're going under 50, these are the vehicles that are going to fit the needs, but they're not going to be in that same aspiration or level of category. I think that's the problem right there. So, and then reviews back from the host, which me. I don't have a lot of contact with the customer, so really, how the vehicle is returned, fuel in the tank, how communication transpired. I don't know them enough to be able to say, hey, next guy in, yeah, he seemed okay with me. Like, was he perfect? No, he's the first time guy on Turo. Like, so he doesn't know the ropes to it or cares. It's a commodity, right? And I understand that from that perspective. You're going to go, they just drove the car. Yeah, booked it, drove it. Like that's, as a client, I get that. But I'm not showing up to your house to meet your kids. I'm not driving around the block to drop off your groceries. Like it's just you've rented it's a transaction. That's all that my stuff is. Now, when you get into a high-end exotic car, you want delivery and you want white glove treatment, and you pay for that, right? So again, that's one of those things where the review system just needs to be should be more multiple choice. I think that would be wiser. If you said, okay, well, here it is. On arrival, was the vehicle clean? And if you put no, well, then I've got photos to back it up because I dropped the car off, right? So it's like, yeah, you picked it up. It was clean. There's no debate about that. Did it have a full tank of gas? Mark, no. Well, I have a photograph that says, hey, it was returned with a full tank of gas, or it wasn't. Like it's one or the like. It's I think that would be a better thing. And the other one would probably be maybe the occasional rotational quality control call, where you kind of, as a Turo representative, you call somebody and say, hey, that's a new guy out there in Listowel. We're just touching base with you. Did the car smell like skunk? Was it filthy? Was it and like an actual conversation with somebody? Which I think that's the limitation. There's not a lot of staffing involved in Turo. I think that's the underlying problem, and probably rightly so. They probably have a very thin margin to work with. They're only taking 25% of the sale. I'm sure that adds up, when you're going through it. But I'm sure they've got probably overhead costs and a host of things. It's probably not a mom and pop operation. So it's not some kid in his basement doing it. I don't think it is. And that would be an interesting little video. We could do a video about what Turo is and where they're located and how they actually operate. That would be kind of a cool little item. I don't think that I would do it, but someone else with a bigger production value and better value might think about it. So that's where I'm at today. So that's kind of the week in review. Yeah, I think that's it. We're about 30 minutes in, so I think that covers everything. Again, I'm always looking for input. So if you've got any advice, if you're a Turo host out there, you kind of go, yeah, we're having problems with ratings and reviews, and this is how you've dealt with it in the past. It'd be nice to hear from you, especially if you're doing the cash car or the entry level points. Um, if you're a high end Turo host, and you kind of go, Keith, it's the exact same thing. Doesn't change at all whether it's a Kia or if it's a Lamborghini. They all treat them identically. Like maybe my eyes aren't like that. Maybe it's like, wow, maybe they do go off roading in one of those vehicles. Just, I don't know. Is it worth doing a high end car? And what would be considered high end in Canada? So that would be an interesting little thing to do for Turo, to go and actually get a high end car. Watch my little heart go boom, 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 because I can come back with chocolate on the wheel. I don't know. I want to do that. But mine, if you've got something in the back seat and you've had an accident, it's like, clean it up. It's rubber mats, no big deal. I think I'd be a little more obsessive over a Lamborghini. So I think it'd be one of those things where it'd be like dust on the dashboard. Ooh, bad, bad, bad. I think that would be the issue, because there's more of an attainment thing. Maybe I'm wrong. Like, I don't know. But it's one of those things you look at. There's got to be a story there. There's got to be one Turo guy that goes, yeah, I had a beautiful, beautiful Ferrari 308, one of the classics, and you'd love to rent that. Maybe for graduation. Wouldn't that be great? Go out in an old school Ferrari, go for a good run. You find out that it was Dorito chips and soda pop and 6 inches of other stuff, spread throughout the car. You kind of go, oh, $250 doesn't really recoup that sense of loss to the person that owned the vehicle as a little baby, or dreamed to get it, to go, wow, I can send that down to Suds and have it cleaned, no problem. Probably not the case on something like that. So it'd be interesting to hear a story about that. And again, I'm also looking for anyone that's in the business in automotive. I'm looking to touch base with someone that does financing. It'd be really nice to find a private leasing company that'd like to have a conversation about Turo and say, look, maybe you allow it, maybe you don't. What are some of the hurdles that you've got when a client calls you up and says, hey, look, I want to put this on the platform to offset some of the cost? What type of insurance do you feel they should have? And also, does it make the lease null and void? Like if you're doing an in-house lease, does that make that done? You're out, bring the car back. It'd be interesting to know as far as that standpoint. I know you always hear from the consumer end of it about, oh, the big bad lease company didn't let me do it. But maybe it's one of those things where the things you hear on the internet are never really two-sided. So it'd be nice to be able to hear something from that end. So if you're in private leasing and you go, Keith, this is a market we are chasing after, or it's a market we avoid, it'd be nice to hear from you and just go, okay, let's have a conversation about it at least. It breaks away the AI drone, right? So the other one, if you're in a franchise dealership, it'd be nice to talk to somebody like that. So if you were looking at buying, or if I were looking at buying a new car, I'm going to put it on Turo because I like to offset some of the cost. Does that void the warranty? Is it now considered commercial use? Because that's a lot of money lost. Like if you're out there going, oh, I'm going to buy that, let's say entry-level car, you're going to go buy yourself a nice little Elantra. Time it's all said and done, it's $25,000, right? Then plus your interest, blah blah blah, you're into 30, right? Pretty quick, right? Without even it's not even the end. It's not even the super fancy one, right? So you go, okay, so I put it on Turo the first week, you avoid your warranty. That's a lot of money lost in that car. Like, is that the situation with it? Do you have to disclose it up front? Or does Hyundai kind of turn the blind eye and they go, we don't really look at that? Because all you do is run the VIN. It's going to come up as it's been used as a Turo vehicle. It comes up on Carfax. So it's one of those things where, how does that hurdle work? It'd be interesting to know from that standpoint. Well, we're coming up to 35 minutes. I try to keep these at 30, so we've gone a little bit over. Again, if you like the video and you managed to make it all the way to the end with my rant and continue over and over and over again, more power to you. Thumbs up. In which case, give me a thumb up. I would appreciate that. Or the other one is subscribe. And I know it sounds ridiculous. I'm at 270 right now. So that's pretty good subscriber-wise. I'd really like to get up to that 1,000 mark. I'm not going to hit those hours because I think it's what, 40,000. I don't know what it is, but it's an outrageous number that I'll probably never hit. So, but a subscription thing would be nice if I could look up that little thing and go, wow, there's 1,000 people that actually like my videos and they actually subscribe because they continue to hear from me. The little ones are probably a little easier to follow. But again, thank you very much. And again, first time on Turo. We'll review in 6 months and see how it went financially. We'll also have the little nightmare talks. And so far, there's not much in the way of nightmares to talk about. And financially, it's not big money, but it's just a little spigot of money. I haven't really spent anything to get into the stuff, so I'm not really getting a lot in returns. That's the nature of it. So again, thank you very much. Have a pleasant and enjoyable day. Let's find that button. There it is. End screen. Not yet. Oh, end. There we go. See ya.